Hey everyone, it's Dawn from MegAndMe Soap. Today we are going to fold our brand new Hexagonal Origami Box. It's something that we came up with for our Watch Me Change round soap. It's just the right size. You can make it fancy by putting some tissue or some fun crinkle paper in there. And you can find these videos at other places on the internet, but I thought some of them were a little hard to understand. A lot of them didn't have any narration in them. And this is a custom size. And so if you're looking to dress up your soap to give as a gift for someone else, or if you want to just use it as a neat little box for any other gift or something that will just look cute sitting on your dresser, this is a great idea. It's a great thing for kids and adults alike. I think lots of people would enjoy making and receiving something in one of these. So we will get started. So to make this exact size that will fit our soaps, you need an 8.5 by 11 3/8 sheet of paper, and that's an odd size, but you can get it by cutting down a 12 by 12 sheet of scrapbook paper, and then you could use any pattern, make it for any season that you wanted to. This is our signature MegAndMe blue color, so I had to get that. And so that's the first thing you need to do, is to cut a sheet of paper down to that size. After we do that, the next thing is we're going to make score lines every 1 5/8 inches all the way across, and these score lines are going to define the sides of our box. So right here is 1 5/8 inches. So if you want a different size, you can adjust those. And so here we have a score line at 1 5/8, 3 1/4, 4 7/8, 6 1/2, 8 1/8, and 9 3/4. And for any Harry Potter fans out there, you will enjoy having a 9 3/4 line on your box. So yeah, okay. So we'll put that aside, and we've got a sheet right here that are cut to those dimensions and scored along those lines. And this is our first fold. It's going to be right down here. To do that, take this corner and put it up so that it meets the first score line up here, and it comes down to a point at this second score line. Just like that. And that's how we start. Flip that over. And fold this so that this tip is along the fold line down here. And one thing that will help you keep everything straight and square is keep an eye on your score lines that you did, and make sure that the score lines on this flap coming up match the score lines on the sheet underneath, and that will be a big help. Just like that. Unfold and turn around. Then the edge down here is going to come up and meet this edge. And when we do that, we're not going to fold all the way across. We just want to make one little fold like that. That's going to be a marker for us for this next step. Because now I'm going to take this edge, and we are going to make a complete fold right up to that line. Like that. And then we're going to take this edge and bring it up to that edge. What we're doing here is we're making the sides of our box, and we're also making the mechanism that we're going to use to connect the two sides of this paper together when we get to that step. But this is the interlocking system that will be kind of cool to see later on. Okay, so take the paper and turn here, and you can see that we've got 7 rectangles right there. And remember, we're making a 6-sided box, but don't worry yet. That will all make sense here in a little bit. And this step, we're going to make folds that make an X in each of these rectangles. And this is how we're going to do it. We're going to take this point up, and the point down here is going to be right where this sheet meets that fold. So try to get it as close as you can. So one little point there, and then this one comes up to this first score line up here. And I know it might be hard to see, but your first score line that outlines that rectangle is going to be our second point there. That's going to define our fold. So you see, we got the first line of the X that's going to go through this rectangle. Okay, so to make the next one, we're going to fold right along here, this first score line. Like that. Then we're going to make the same fold that we did before. We're going to bring the corner up. One corner there. The next at that score line. Okay, and I won't do this every step, but let's just look and see what that did. If we unfold, that gave us the completed X in our first one, and that gave us the first line of our X in the second one. And that's what we're basically going to do the whole way down here. So the only thing that might be a little tricky to remember is as we do that, we always fold along these score lines. So what I mean by that is just like we folded along that score line for this one, we're going to fold along this score line for the next one. Like that. And then we're going to take this corner up just like we did before. Another check that you can make is once you get to this point, now you have a guideline for where this point goes. So this point, for this particular size anyway, this point comes up, and this edge right here lays right on this diagonal or really close to it, but you can kind of gauge how square you're keeping everything by if that lines up. So that's kind of a helpful thing. So again, we've got our 2 squares completed and our third on its way. So now 1, 2, we're going to fold at the third score mark and keep doing this all the way down. And it's okay if your first one doesn't turn out. I think I did about 10 of these before I got one that looked good enough either to save or to give away. Like everything, it takes a little practice, and that's okay. It'd be a good way to teach kids a little perseverance and paying attention and doing the best you can, and then you get something really neat when you're all done. Okay, so now we've got our X's in 6 of our squares, or rectangles. We're down to our very last one, and so we're just going to fold this one up like this, just like we did at the beginning. If I can get it here. There. Okay. So that is that step. Now flip it over. We're going to fold right along here. We're going to fold this up. And now we're going to see the box starting to come together. The important part for this step is as we're folding our box, it's going to come around like this. This shorter folded part is going to be on the outside of the box. That's what's going to make our sides. This inner, taller part will make the bottom of the box. So we want that to be on the inside. So just to make it easier for this next step, go ahead and reinforce all of those score marks. Now we have several layers of paper in there, and this will just make this next step easier. You can see, but just by doing that, now the box just wants to come together like that. So this next step is one of the reasons why I wanted to make my own video, because I thought this was really hard to see what they were doing on the other ones that I saw. So I hope this helps somebody. But the way that we're going to put this together, it's going to lock in on itself in kind of a really clever way, whoever came up with this. But put one of these long sides down, put the other long side on top of it, and then, if I can do it here, if we open up this part, you can see we've got 1, 2, 3 layers of paper in there. So these bottom 2 layers, this one and this one, we're going to crimp those together, and we're going to think of that as one side here, leaving this topmost side, which is going to be the outer wall of our box. That's just going to be a single layer. And then we're going to take all 3 layers of this side, the outer side that's going to be our box, and the 2 inside layers there. We're going to take all of this and stick that inside this pouch that's made between the 2 bottom layers and the outside layer. And it wraps around here on the bottom. So that's going to go there. This is going to come around and slip right into that pouch. And if we did it right, we'll see if I did it right. It all slides together. And you have to mess with it just a little bit, just because it is so tight, and it is such a good seal or a good connection that you just have to ease it on in there a little bit. It's one of the things that I think is so neat about origami, is just how whoever comes up with these designs, I'm just always amazed whenever I see one that how neatly everything fits together. Okay, so this is what our box should look like. This large inside part is on the inside. The shorter part is on the outside, making our sides. So let me just grab this one, and I'll take the top off. Okay, and you can see how it's coming together. And so, whoops, I had a little crinkle paper in there. So, like I had mentioned before, this part is going to come down into this really cool little 6 triangle hexagonal bottom. Now, don't tell a real origami enthusiast about this next part here, because this is not really done in real origami, but just for the purposes of this video, and because this is going to be a box that I want to put something as substantial in as a kind of a hefty bar soap, I am just going to put a little bit of tape right in here. So where we had our 2 overlapping rectangles here, I'm just going to put a little bit of tape in there, and that's going to help everything stay together and just work well. It's going to be easier to see too what I'm doing. If I can find my paper clip. I had a paper clip sitting here, but anyway, another thing you can do if you don't want to use the tape, you can just stick a paper clip right here on the outside where the two sides, where we put the one side into the pocket of the other. You can just put a paper clip right there, right over there, and hold those sides together while we're folding. Don't put the paper clip on these longer sides, because that's what we're going to be folding down here in a minute. Okay, so with that in mind, let's just review here that this piece on the inside, what that looks like is it's just a long rectangle that's going down the inside of the box. So we've got 6 of those, and they're all the same. There are folds that we did that make an X in each one, but most of, well, pretty much everything that we're going to directly touch is going to be one of these folds on the sides of the rectangle. And so that might be useful information to you here later as we're going along, just to keep things straight in our minds of what we're doing, because the fold can get a little complicated the first time that you're doing it, but just kind of keep that in mind. So we're going to start with one of the sides of the rectangle just on the inside. This is a little hard to see, and let me just encourage you there, when we make the top, this part is actually going to be on the outside, and it's going to be a little bit easier to see. But if you can see it well enough here, I think we can see it good enough. But make sure that this crease right here goes all the way down to the bottom, all the way down to where it meets right here. And you're not going to be able to see me do that, but just know that that's what I'm doing. I've got my fingers right down here making sure that that is folded all the way down, because that's crucial. And then we're going to take that and just give it a little push to the back. Now, it's not going to go down a lot, and this is the other thing that was really hard to see in the other videos. Lots of times I didn't have any narration or anything, so it was hard to see what they were doing. But for right now, push that back just about that far. Okay? So this is the side that we just pushed down. We're going to follow that along the outside of the rectangle until we come to this next straight up and down side of the next rectangle. Okay, so we came from here, we're going all the way down to here, and we're going to make sure that that one is creased all the way down to the bottom. Okay, and when we get that, we're just going to push that to the back and put our thumb on our other hand right there, just to hold it. Okay, it still looks a little goofy, so but if yours looks like this, you're doing it right, even though it looks really weird. So this is the side we were just working on. We're going to come down to the next straight up and down side of that rectangle. Make sure that's creased all the way. We're going to push that back like that. Oh, now it's looking really complicated. That's what we did. We come down this next one, push that back. Now we're starting to see a little bit of the design take shape. But sometimes that just kind of gets everything all crumpled in together too, the parts that we haven't done, but that's okay. We're just going to keep going. So that's the side that we did. Come down. Like that. Come down to the next one. Oh, and that one wants to fold by itself. That's good. That's what it's supposed to do. Okay, and then coming down to the next one. That goes down. That's folding by itself. And we might even be back to around to the beginning now where we were. But this is something that kind of you do kind of go around this a couple of times, even though you folded it, but just to kind of work it and coax it into that shape. And because just of the nature of the design, you might have to just keep going and making sure again that all your creases are still holding. Sometimes they can get uncreased or recreased for you without you really intending to. I'm just going to flip this over and let you see this is how our bottom is looking. So far. And just the more you kind of gently press down and pull out a little bit, kind of coax out, you're starting to see that we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 triangles. Now we're looking a little bit more like that one. That's good. So all of the triangle points obviously come together right in the middle, and then each triangle side here on the bottom is going to line up as close as we can with one of the sides. So that's what you're working towards when you're doing this. And it just is a process of little by little, see what you can press down. And sometimes the piece that you're wanting to press down isn't ready to be pressed down at that point. So you just go and do the next one. There. That looks pretty good. Okay. So that, and our bottom is looking good. That's it. That's the completed bottom of the box. All right. Now we're going to move on to the top. This is going to be very, very similar, but there's going to be one important difference. Okay, so this is going to look familiar. You can use the same paper that you want. You can use a contrasting color. This is a fun time to get your creativity out and just make something unique and individual to what you want. But the dimensions for this particular box are the same length, so it's 11 3/8. And what we did, just for our purposes, we just took this 8.5 sheet and we cut it in half. And that's going to give us a smaller box, or a smaller box lid than box bottom. Okay, and so you can see if you want maybe a larger or a longer box top, you know, instead of cutting it in half, you could maybe, you know, cut it down here and then use this part. But that's also how you vary the bottom sizes. You know, obviously you just take lengths off of here, cut across here for different heights of the box. Obviously you don't want to cut this way because that's cutting off sides, and we don't want to do that. So this is what we're starting with for this size of a box top. Part of the reason why I'm doing this video is kind of actually for me, because I'm afraid this is one of the more complicated folds that I'm doing, and I'm a little afraid that when I come back to this in a few months, I'm not going to remember how I did it. So, and I'm always afraid that the original videos I saw on YouTube are going to be taken down. I'm not going to be able to find them. So anyway, just a little sneak peek into the inner workings of box making at MegAndMe Soap today. So we're going to start the same way. This corner is going to come up to this first score line with the bottom point coming to the second score line, just like what we did. Flip it over, and like we did before, we're going to fold so that this bottom point right here is along this crease. This is a little bit harder of a fold. I think this is a bit of a blind fold. That sounds kind of funny, but what I mean by that is that before we had, this sheet was longer and we had the score marks coming up here that we lined up right here, and we don't have that this time. So we just kind of have to do the best we can, then flip it over and see how we did, because now we can see here on this sheet that we folded, now we can see how our score marks did. Oh, I gotta make a little adjustment, because that is important to have those lined up. But there. Okay, so, and we're gonna unfold that. And this is going to be a much simpler part 2 than it was before. We're just going to take this edge and bring it up to that. Just like that. It's not as complicated of an interlocking system when we're putting it together as the bottom was. It's just, that's all it is. And then, like we did, so we've got our 7 rectangles. And we're going to do the folds to put the X in the middle of each one. I'm going to do this just a little bit faster because you've already seen this. Feel free to pause and replay as needed. Okay, so there we have our 7 rectangles with our 7 X's. So we're going to go back to this point right here, and after we've made all of our X's, we're just going to fold this up one more time. We're going to make a good crease here, but then, and don't forget this part, we're going to unfold that. Just like that. So all we wanted in that step was we wanted that crease. That's actually going to be the top. It's going to define the top of the box. Because for when we're doing the top of the box, this long part is going to come over, this little short folded part, and that's how the top of the box is going to be created. Okay, so that's why we need that fold right there. Okay, so to put this together, we're going to fold that around, and this is going to be really, really easy. We're just going to slide this entire side right there in like that. Couldn't be easier. Just make sure that you get these lined up as much as you can, because that keeps everything looking neat and trim. And again, I'm just, for the sake of demonstration purposes, and to make this a little bit tougher, I'm going to put a piece of double stick tape right there. Just like that. Okay. Just the same way, we're going to take that edge, and like I said, we're making the bottom of the box. Now all of these rectangles are on the outside, and so it's going to be a little easier to see. So take one of the straight edges of the rectangle, crease it all the way down, and I've got my hand on the inside, and I'm kind of working this crease at the same time that I'm doing this. You don't have to, but I'm just pushing back a little bit on that edge. So it looks like that. You can't push down very much, but that's okay. So that's the edge that we did. Come down, find the next straight edge of the rectangle. That's nicely creased. I'm going to push that down. Put my thumb right there. That's what we did. Come down, get that edge of the rectangle. Like that. Now it gets to be a little hard to hold, but that's okay. That's what we did. Come down. That one's really mangled looking, so we'll fix that. Okay. Oh, and now we're back to where we started. Now, just like before, it's going to take just a couple rounds of reinforcing what we just did. And each time we can press each of these a little bit farther down, and that's how we work them flat. Okay, and like we said before, it just kind of becomes obvious which triangle goes to which side. And if one isn't particularly cooperative, just keep going and come back to that one. So then we have something kind of like that. And you know, for a while, I even thought that was kind of cool. I could easily stop there and have that as the little bow on top. That's very cute. And if you're maybe giving a lot of these or having them set on your dresser, maybe you want some different tops like that. You can very easily just stop there. But if you want to go ahead and make this, you got to do one more step. We're going to take each of the ends of the triangles, the side here, and we're going to fold it up to meet that center line. And you can tell as you're doing this, this is a little sneak peek for what's coming ahead. There's a little pocket that's formed right there. That'll come in handy later. But for now, open that back up, turn it to the next triangle, take that edge, and fold to the center line. Just do it all the way around. It gets a little hard to hold at this point. I've got, can I show it here? I got fingers on the bottom, fingers on the top, however it works for you. And I think I'm on my last one. Yep, okay. Okay, now, so you can still see the sides of the triangles. Where each side comes out, just take that and crimp it like you're crimping a pie crust. Okay, make a little corner right there. Okay, so each edge of the triangle has a little point at the end. It looks like a little star. All right, now take one of the stars, just like we've done before. We're just going to push that back. Now, fortunately, this one goes back pretty much flat, so push that back, and then see that little pocket right there? That's what the point right in front of it. We're going to take that and we're just going to ease that right into that little pocket and put your thumb there, because that might want to pop out. We're going to put our thumb there and we're going to come down, and it has its own little pocket that it made. So come to the next point and try to coax that into that pocket like that. Put your thumb there. There's the pocket that it made. This is the next, that's the next tip. That goes right in. Whoops, and the other one popped out. That's what happens. Just put it back in. Going on to the next one. Next tip goes into the pocket. Oh, just about getting done. Let's see. Oh goodness. Come on now. Alright, now we're to my last one. So that one is going to go in like that. And like we've done before, we're going to have to make another pass to get all these little rascal points back in. It isn't always this hard. I think it's because I'm on camera. But don't let that discourage you, because it does really get easier with practice. See that? What I thought was so neat about when I saw this is that if you are looking at it from a gift standpoint, you've got your box and your bow all together in one thing that you folded out of paper. And I'm just always amazed that you can take something like this, and through origami you can get something like that. And I was amazed at that when someone came and showed my 4th grade class to do that in school, and I'm still amazed. But anyway, I thought that would be fun. Again, of course, I really like it with a MegAndMe soap inside, ready to give, or a little place for your jewelry or anything else. I mean, give one to your kids. I'm sure they'll be able to find lots of things to be able to put inside. So anyway, thanks for watching, and you can find more of my folding videos on YouTube. And if you enjoyed today's presentation, please give us a thumbs up. Thanks, everyone.